Good morning guys, welcome back to the AJ Analysis channel, where today I've got a bit of a controversial opinion that I need to say really quietly. I think Manchester United are improving. Now that's controversial because people like to hate on Manchester United and also Ruben Amorim and say that the project is going literally nowhere. But I don't believe that to be the case. I believe particularly in the first phase, this area here, Manchester United are finally starting to make progress. And this is really important because I think we've seen progress in the other areas of the pitch already, but the first phase has been a bit of a sticking point. United have been a side that when trying to play out from the back, get stuck in these positions here, the opposition force us one way, and basically Manchester United haven't been able to get out and have been losing the ball in these areas, until recently where I think we've started to see progress. So why do I think there has been progress? Why do I say that? Well, because for me, there are certain patterns that are happening that are becoming patterns. We are seeing them more frequently when Manchester United are trying to play out in these deeper areas. And I think this is happening particularly when United first win the ball back. So not necessarily playing out from a goal kick or something like that, but perhaps when the opposition have attacked, United win the ball back in a deep position and try and play out from this position. Now, when we are seeing those situations, United are still in the back three because that is the shape that we have just defended in. Of course, often the two wing backs will be deeper in the back five as well. So let's say the opposition have played with the ball here, have tried to move the ball forward. United win it back in this position here. Where United are getting better is at now playing out from the counter press to try and find room further forward. And the pattern that we are starting to see involves the wing back, it involves the inside forward, and it involves the central midfielder here. Now I should just add, this is far from perfect. United are not a well-oiled machine in the first phase. We're not suddenly the masters of playing through the counter press. Of course not. But I do think we are seeing progress in these deeper positions. And I think this progress, these patterns, these ideas starting to develop gives us a better understanding of what we are going to need this summer in the transfer market. So let's quickly take a look at the pattern I am talking about. Let's say the opposition attack here and our left centre back here, perhaps Lenny Yoro, wins the ball back for Manchester United. The pattern that we are starting to see is that the wing back is going to drop a little bit deeper into this position here, of course taking this player with him, and the ball is going there. What is starting to occur though is one of the forwards is now coming into this side area. So the near side central midfielder, rather than necessarily sprinting into this position and almost closing us off 3 versus 3 here, what this midfielder is occasionally doing is actually just drifting away a little bit, taking this player with him, and it opens up this space here for someone else to arrive into. Now, of course, in the United forward line, we have the likes of Xerxes, Bruno Fernandes, players like that. Players who may start high, but actually want to drift a little bit deeper. Xerxes, for example, is perfect at this, because once this space has now been created, Xerxes is the sort of player that wants to come in there. So as the ball goes in there, United have a way out from the back. However, you could argue we are still a little bit trapped, because this is still a 4 versus 4 situation. Life is still tough for Manchester United. However, don't worry, the pattern goes a little bit further than that to actually eventually get the ball to the far side of the pitch. So the way that this pattern continues is this central midfielder here is going to separate himself from that defender there. So as this ball goes up, naturally opposition players will just drop half a yard because they want to be safe. They want to protect this space in behind these areas. So this player will drop off just a little bit. This is when we are now finding our central midfielder. This is now the next most important player, because when we go back to this player, he actually has, for a couple of seconds, a little bit of time on the ball to take a touch, to get his head up and actually look for a longer range pass. This is why Bruno Fernandes has been playing in a deeper midfield position. We spoke about it yesterday, right? Bruno's benefits he brings to the team when he plays deeper. And one of those things was long passing. It was switching. It was moving the ball forward. And it is part of this pattern, now picking the ball up in this area. So what happens next? We have got the ball here, but there isn't an obvious pass on, because let's say the centre-back for the opposition might be here, marking our striker. We might have the opposition full-back tucking round. In midfield, United are still under pressure. There isn't actually an obvious pass on as he gets his head up. Or is there? There is. If not, I wouldn't be talking about it. The obvious pass now is actually over here on the far side of the pitch, because now we have a big space for the wing-back on this side to run into, moving into this position. Now the question is, why is that space there? Well, because United have overloaded one side of the pitch, right? United have brought so many players into this position here. You know, the centre-back, the wing-back, the midfielder, the inside forward, maybe even the striker. This draws the opposition into this side of the pitch. It creates that space on the far side. And this is finally the benefit of playing wing backs, because now, as we pick this ball up here in this position, there is no one for the opposition naturally marking this player unless the winger is going to track back, which just seems unlikely in my opinion. In the case of most teams, of course not everyone. But suddenly now, we can play that switch to the far side and Manchester United can move the ball forward. This is a pattern that is starting to occur in the first phase. We saw it against Nottingham Forest. United playing out down the left-hand side, moving the ball forward, this time to Xerxes, who was actually a striker in this game. Then the ball goes backwards into midfield. Now is the time to switch to the athletic wing-back on the far side. Now, like I said earlier, this is still far from perfect. United are not a well-oiled machine that can suddenly play through the press with ease, but this is a pattern that's allowing United to get out from the back, overloading one side of the pitch, playing through and then going to the far side of the pitch where we now have space. So what does that tell us about the future of the Manchester United squad? Well, first of all, we need inside forwards, 10s in these positions here, that are comfortable receiving with their back to goal. Because as this pass comes in from the wing-back, this is not an easy ball to protect. I think this is one of the reasons why Xerxes has been quite effective in this role, because he is good at protecting the ball in these moments, despite the fact that you can see the defender is following him wherever he goes. He is good at protecting that ball. So that is one thing we need. 10s or inside forwards, whatever you want to call them, players that can play with the back to goal in that area. The next thing we need is central midfielders that can pick the ball up and can switch it, Without them, it sort of all falls apart. Because if you go in here and you can't switch it, you've got to play short, you don't really have an option. Because like we've said already, we've drawn opposition onto us. So if we actually now try and play through these areas, it's quite difficult. Going to the far side is the best solution for United here. So we need players that can do that. When we don't have that, or we have the wrong players there, we start to get problems. And I would like you to cast your mind back to the game against Leicester just before the international break. You'll remember the game. United won 3-0, but we all sort of sat there after the game and went, yeah, it was good, but we didn't really do much. It was professional. We got the job done, but we didn't really dominate or control the game, really. And that was because United struggled with this part. Once we had played out from the back here, we struggled to then play the switch to the far side. And the result of that was this pass map. A United team that couldn't move the ball forwards, that wasn't effective moving the ball forward, particularly to the flanks for the wing-backs to then to move forward. And United had a massive problem in that game until Casemiro came onto the pitch. Now, why does Casemiro change things when he comes onto the pitch? Because Casemiro was a player that we were all told was washed. And even I thought was past his best, and in truth he probably still is. But what he is still is a very good progressive passer. You can see in his FB ref report this season, for switches played in the Premier League, he is still one of the best midfielders. He is someone who regularly looks to play the ball to the far side. Quickly compare that to Ugarte, who doesn't rank as well in that area. Although, interestingly, I actually think Ugarte can do this, so maybe we can see it more in the future. But what Casemiro does when he comes onto the pitch and is now receiving the ball here, he is facing play, he's got a moment of time, and he's got players to hit. He's got a player here he could go to, he's got a striker, he's got an inside forward, he's got a wing-back on the far side. This suits Casemiro so much. Players in front of him, time on the ball, lovely. We love Casemiro there. That is where he still has a lot to bring to this team. And like I said, we saw that against Leicester. Casemiro comes onto the pitch and suddenly, once this side is overloaded, we can now play the ball to the far side. Dalot has the athleticism to carry the ball forward. Manchester United get themselves into the final third. And eventually, Bruno Fernandes arrives on the edge of the box to put the ball into the back of the net. That tells us a lot about what we need in our midfield past this summer. Should someone like Bruno Fernandes be used as an attacker, you know, a 10, an inside forward, whatever you want to call it. Should Bruno Fernandes be used higher, we need someone deep in the midfield who can be that expansive passer. Eriksen is probably not going to be here. Casemiro probably not going to be here. Kobe Mainoo doesn't have this to his game just yet. Ugarte, I think, can do it, but isn't doing it at the moment. Perhaps what United need this summer is someone who can pick that ball up and switch it to the far side. So yeah, that is an area that I feel Manchester United are improving. The results don't necessarily reflect that. United aren't exactly blowing teams away all of a sudden. But even in the loss against Forest, we saw moments where United could manipulate the opposition. We just need the players to gain a bit of confidence in doing it. We need the players to understand it a bit more, but also we need the profiles of player that can execute it. But what's really key here, and it is the benefit of getting Ruben Amorim in early, getting him in back in November rather than waiting until the summer. He is starting to work with the squad already. Now, in this month here, in April, we can figure out in the summer what we're going to need. We now know that chances are we're going to need a central midfielder that can play this passing game unless Bruno Fernandes is able to do it in the long term. But that's key. We now know what we need for the summer, and that is not something that we have always been able to say. This team under Ruben Amorim is making progress. It's not perfect, it's going to take time, but we are getting there. So stick with the project, and who knows? Ruben Amorim may be the manager to turn things around if he gets the backing from the board. Will that happen? No idea. We're just going to have to wait and see. In terms of for today, though, progress is being made. Let's hope for more in the future. Apart from that, we are finished. So thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed this video. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.